The PGL Major in Krakow has now concluded, and Zeus, he did it. He finally did it. Third time's a charm. He now has a major win. After 3 finals, 2 with Na'Vi, he has finally done it. Gambit Gaming, congratulations, because you are the winners of the PGL Major. I mean, first of all, what a run, right? Sure, yesterday we went through kind of the shortcomings of the entire system, just how it's not conducive for the best matchups and the fairest in terms of the fairest seeding system. Just having the top teams play each other early, this eliminating any possibility for those high tier finals that we all love so much. And sure, I mean, even if these might not have been the 2 best teams in the world in the final, I will say, apart from that first map, it was exciting. Although, obviously, it's kind of sad to see Immortals just, I don't know, just fall short on those on the second and third map. I mean, they look deflated as hell. In the last half of that major final, or even the last two-thirds of that major final, unfortunately. Almost clawed back on Inferno, of course, but we'll get through that. First of all, let's just evaluate Gambit. Gambit Gaming, the winners of the major. So, especially in the playoffs, it seemed like everyone filled the role that they had to first of all get to the final and then win the final. Obviously, Adren in the group stages, absolutely insane, and he showed up here in the final in the 2 final maps. The 2 last on Train and especially on Inferno, he was definitely firing on all cylinders. So great tournament from him. Honestly, probably the MVP, unless you want to sneak in someone like a Mo, just because Mo, I mean, in these playoffs, he went absolutely insane, especially that overpass game versus Astralis. That is incredible, and he had some major impact, especially in the final as well. You saw on Train, he was consistently out-opping Immortals, and he was holding the bomb sites incredibly efficiently. It felt like he would always get at least 2 kills with the op, and even on the T side, it felt like he would worm his way in and at least get 1 pick, which on T side Train is usually all you need, as we saw with their inner takes were crazy on that, or outer takes, sorry. Their outer takes on that outer bomb site, on the A site, on Train as T, they just ran over Immortals, it felt like. So, great impact from Mo. Mo obviously sitting at a 1.14 HLTV rating. Incredible. And interestingly enough, nobody on Gambit had a sub 1. Doja is the lowest one with a 1.0 rating. And still, Doja had some incredible impact in these games. Especially, it felt like he really came... I don't know, he came alive on Inferno a lot of the time, it felt like. And obviously, he was like one of the only good ones on Cobblestone in that first map. An unfortunate map for Gambit, of course. But Doja, his grenade into Pit, when they were going to save, and he gets, the result of which is 2 of the Immortals guys dying, dire straits with the economy, just perfect impact, it feels like. Not incredibly cerebral, but it didn't have to be. It felt like he just had to be somewhat of a, I don't want to say I guess somewhat of a clutch player, right? As long as he can bring a couple clutches to the table and a map or 2, it felt like he was doing what he had to do, because that's essentially what won Gambit this major, is like incredible performances and incredible clutches. Now, Adren, obviously 1.26 HLTV rating this tournament. We all know in the group stages, he just completely went ham. So, I mean, hats off to this guy. Showed up in the final, showed up in the group stages, got them, to the playoffs, and then once in the playoffs, we really saw everybody, come alive. I mean, obviously, Hobbit on Inferno with 2 incredible clutches. First of all, that quad kill he had, which was like a 1v3 by the end of it on the B side of Inferno, and he just sprays them down, and obviously that will eventually, it was somewhat of a force buy. I mean, they had 4 AKs and 1 Tech 9, but that obviously almost nailing Immortal's coffin, almost the final nail in Immortal's coffin. So it took a bunch of clutches. It felt like Gambit on their T side on Inferno really wanted to give away the map to Immortal somehow. They were doing these weird forces throughout, but I guess it kind of worked out in the end because they always kept, with that much of a lead going into the half, 11-4, losing the pistol, obviously, but then keeping on forcing. Although I don't really agree with that sentiment. I don't think it's a good philosophy to have. I think that you, especially with that kind of a lead, you want to win the gun rounds, right? But they really managed to press Immortals' economy, and then once getting that win, Immortals were having a terrible time. Obviously, they lost one or two force buys, Immortals, but it wasn't enough because Hobbit as well had another clutch on the A site this time, playing around a smoke, gets, I believe it's Lucas in the smoke, is defusing, and then just playing around the smoke perfectly, pulling out the Glock and then killing Henny. And that was kind of, one of the true final nails. I mean, there's obviously the Zeus clutch as well. Zeus came to play. We saw the train game versus Big. He was absolutely insane, carrying Gambit through that victory. Then now on Inferno, I mean, what a play to play around that smoke on the B site, get the guy defusing, and then just run around. Because the other player knows that he can't defuse comfortably because Zeus knows where the bomb is planted and will most likely get that kill. So just playing the time and then, eventually coming out on top in clutches like these were just, gave Gambit the major title, essentially. It was incredible. Even, I'm impressed with their CT side as well. We saw that 4th round where they go for the, super, I believe Henry G calls it the Jaden round, where they save all the SMGs. Mo even saves a scout. And gets they just keep on getting these clutch kills in 1v1s and aim duels across the map. And so building that economy, we saw it time and time again. Round 6, sure, Immortals gets a win. It's now 5-1. Gambit comes straight back and just resets them instantly. We saw it 10-2. Again, reset. So they get the max loss bonus. So losing basically 5 rounds in a row. Oh, now you have the max loss bonus. You go in, you lose the round, and now you're back to 0, Which means that Gambit, in a way, there's obviously no way that you can... Obviously, you're not giving the opponent, take a round now so we can reset you. But in a coincidental kind of way, it really works out for them because you get them to that max loss bonus, thus maximizing the amounts of rounds you get in a row. And then once that happens, you lose a round... But then, because you go on and win the next, they're now reset, and the same thing happens again. It's a vicious cycle for Immortals. Obviously, it ends up being 11-4 at the half on Inferno, just because, a couple of good rounds from Immortals. They, finally get some of those Tech 9 B rushes in, and then win a couple gun rounds with a couple key kills. There's obviously that insane round on A site on Immortals T side, where it just seemed like all of the Immortals guys coming out of apartments, and of course Quad got 4 kills, 3 kills just in a matter of seconds. Boom, like that, the site was open and they just win the round somehow, when it felt like Gambit had the perfect setup. But that's those rounds are going to happen. So yeah, Inferno was a crazy ride, but crazy clutches just won Gambit the game, and it just felt like, especially with Zeus's leadership, everyone kept their composure. And this is what I said in my video yesterday. I think the veteran savvy, and obviously we saw the likes of Hobbit having good, amazing clutch rounds and amazing games, but I think essentially what that comes down to is that under Zeus's leadership, they made it an incredible comment on the desk that, if you compare this to Na'Vi, when Zeus played for Na'Vi in those finals, they just seemed to crumble because it was way more individualistic, right? Everyone in Na'Vi were veteran players. They had their own thoughts about the game. However, coming in here, everyone on this roster knew that, okay, if we let Zeus lead us and we listen to Zeus and we follow his plan, we follow his orders, we could do something here. And I feel like that's exactly what they showed. Is they showed this composure, obviously like this veteran savvy, just clutch factor that comes from just pure coldness, like ice in your veins, and just being able to cheese a couple of rounds out that are completely necessary. So obviously the map pool the veto didn't go exactly like I thought. I mean, I thought it was interesting that Immortals pulled out Cobblestone, but obviously they proved that, wow, coming out Lucas, especially on that B plat on their T side, amazing entries. It just felt like Immortals were hitting every single shot, solid defaults, always winning in drop, always winning on plat. Would they go to A, they would always win on A. They were just basically winning. They were playing an amazing default and just winning the initial aim duels, and that's what just snowballed them into like a crazy win on that Cobblestone game. Obviously, winning both pistols helped them out a lot, and that's probably what solidified the final score of 16-4, I believe it was. So, not going to analyze that game too much, apart from the fact that Immortals had an amazing T-side on that Cobblestone, looked really good, but then going into Train, I don't know what it was, but they looked deflated. First of all, Gambit's T-side was incredible. Amazing speed. They would have incredible defaults that would funnel into the outer bomb site, right? So they would work Ivy, and they would kind of slowly work into getting into drop, getting into T main, and then slowly just funneling into that outer site, and just every single time they would pincer the Immortals CT side. And obviously we know that Immortals on Train, they want to get that double op going. And if you're able to, on the T side, not let them do that, not let them get those double ops and get them rolling, and then snowballing the CT's economy into, always being able to afford them, versus Immortals, you're going to have like incredible success. And we saw that. I mean, on that Train game, it was just, an incredible T side that I thought, at least, from Gambit, just shutting the Immortals down. Basically, they couldn't play their game plan on CT, and then once Gambit were in CT, it felt like they knew exactly what Immortals were doing. Mo, obviously, amazing on that AWP, especially on that outer site. It just felt like he always, got what he needed. So incredible game from them to take that Train game, and now obviously going into Inferno, this was where it was supposed to be a brawl, This is, wow, okay, we have the 1-1. Immortals on that first map show that now, they've come to play in this finals. Gambit looking deflated as ever. Going into Train, okay, Immortals T-side, they tried to do the same thing as Gambit were doing, basically trying to hit, great defaults into that outer site, and then eventually, if all else fails, you just rush into that inner site, but it just wasn't working. It felt like Gambit had a read on their T side, whereas Immortals did not have a read on Gambit's T side. And so thus, Immortals lose the second map, Gambit win it, Train, now it's 1-1. Going into Inferno, and what a way to close it. What a map to close it on. Even before knowing anything, this is probably the best map in history to close out major finals, and finals in general. It's just a really exciting map. If you have a good T side, it's going to be exciting as hell because you have so many options. Obviously, I mean, we saw it from Gambit on their CT side. They would always go for that banana aggression, and it always worked, it felt like. Immortals not at all knowledgeable of what was going on there, and would constantly get picked off from Hobbit, who would push down. We saw that in the first gun round where they saved all the SMGs. Hobbit just pushed up, and I believe he had Adren holding down the angle on Banana. And so when Lucas came up, they smoke off Adren, or I can't remember if they flash him, smoke him off, or grenade, or molly, some form of utility at least. They have no clue, which they should, because they haven't had Banana control at all in the round, and a lot of time has passed, And they don't even pre-fire the angle. Hobbit gets it. Obviously, everyone starts picking up AKs, and they sweep that round, which they shouldn't have, with 4 SMGs and a scout. It was crazy. So obviously, there is somewhat room for CT aggression on Inferno, but not excessive amounts. It's not like a cache in that sense. It's more in line with... It's it's slightly more open to CT aggression than like a map like Train or Cobblestone. But that's why I like it so much, Inferno, that is, because it doesn't have too much, like, you can't, it doesn't leave room for too much CT aggression, but at the same time it leaves for enough CT aggression that makes the game exciting, and that the CTs, can actually, if Ts choose to hard hit one side of the map, CTs can capitalize on that and gain map control, unlike Cobblestone or even Train. Now, obviously, what a game. Gambit take the first half, their CT side 11-4. Now, going into their T side, with this lead, obviously we already spoke about this, they choose to go for that force, always pressure the Immortals' economy. And, well, eventually they end up succeeding, and they end up clutching the rounds and eventually winning the major finals, giving Zeus, finally, after 3 major finals, out of 3, he has won now. He has won a major final, and he has that title, and congratulations to Zeus, and congratulations to the likes of Adren. Now, ever since Zeus joined Gambit, has really risen back again from, being in the starts of CSGO, being known as one of those really amazing star players. Now he is back, and Gambit, unfortunately, they're probably not going to partake in what will be the CIS shuffle, which is unfortunate. Obviously, it's somewhat justified now, having won a major. They're probably going to stick with it a while, but hopefully they don't get the VP effect or VP syndrome or whatever, where they just like feel like they can for all eternity now always come back. It would be nice to see, because there is a super team in CIS that, in my opinion, is better than Gambit is right now. So if that can happen, I hope to see it. Probably not going to happen with Gambit for a while now, because the CIS shuffle is probably going to occur now, and now that we have the player break, and obviously Gambit coming out with this result, probably not going to partake in it. So giving contracts and stuff, it's probably going to take a while before we see them being part of any like huge shuffle. But anyways, I think it's justified for now. Eventually they're going to have to do something, but huge congrats to Gambit Gaming, and unfortunate for Immortals, but still, considering they had like what probably the easiest route to a major final, I still want to congratulate them on, in their first major, still keeping the composure, like, regardless, even if you're playing the likes of Big and even Virtus Pro. Virtus Pro in a semifinal with the home crowd for Virtus Pro, sure, you can't hear them, but that's still going to be there for you. But we saw that Steel, or we saw the Steel interview, we think it's actually better for us and worse for the home team, because it's more pressure on them, and we just want to silence the crowd. So, I mean, still, they have a major final. They played in a major final. Huge props to them, and obviously probably the experience they need going forward. Now they have that like big stage experience, and we're talking big stage, not just like playoffs at a major event, or like at a premier level event, but actually the biggest stage in CSGO. So huge props to Immortals, and huge congrats to Gambit Gaming. You deserve it. You beat some, although not the most difficult opposition, you beat some heavy hitting teams, and even you beat Astralis in a best of 3. So props to you. Congratulations, Gambit Gaming. Hopefully you do some damage in the upcoming months.